When we talk about leadership, we're always focused on communication, right? We think about how to speak with impact, how to persuade, how to really command a room. But what if I told you we're missing the most critical half of that equation? We're talking about listening, and not just as some soft skill, but as a core strategic capability, one that's surprisingly rare and absolutely vital for any effective leader. You know, Teddy Roosevelt really nailed it with this one. In the workplace, how do people know you care? It's not just your words, it's whether they feel genuinely heard. Listening, it turns out, is the very bedrock of the relationships that actually drive results.
So I have to ask you, and be honest with yourself, are you really listening? It's a tough question, because most of us, if we're being truthful, think we're pretty good listeners. But the reality is, we tend to vastly overestimate our skills. We think we're engaged when we're often just waiting for a pause so we can jump in and make our own point.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to shatter what's called the listening illusion. Then, we'll build the foundation of presence and open up the listener's toolkit. From there, we'll get into the real tough part, the discipline of mind, and finally, we'll look at the incredible leadership payoff.
Okay, first things first, let's tackle the core problem, the listening illusion. This is a massive blind spot for so many of us. We do something called pretend listening. We're nodding, we're making eye contact, but our mind is racing. We're either formulating our comeback, or worse, we're thinking about our next meeting or what's for lunch.
The contrast here is it's night and day. Pretend listening is all about you, waiting for your turn to talk. Your brain is busy judging and evaluating everything as it comes in. Active listening, on the other hand, is a true discipline. It's about focusing 100% on understanding, on fully receiving the message before you even think about forming an opinion.
And look, this isn't just about being polite. The stakes are incredibly high. People will only let you influence them, let you lead them, after they feel like you have truly heard them out. If you miss that step, you're basically just talking to yourself.
So how do we make that shift from pretend to active listening? Well, it all starts with something surprisingly basic, the foundation of presence. It's simply about how you physically show up. And believe it or not, this is where most of us fail before a single word is even spoken. This slide just says it all, doesn't it? On the left, a leader says this is a priority, but they're checking their phone. The signal is totally scrambled. Do you believe the words or the action? But on the right, the words and the actions match. That's congruence, and that's where trust begins to form. Your words and your body language have to be in sync.
Okay, next up, let's get into the listener's toolkit. So you've established physical presence. That's great. Now you need the actual verbal techniques to prove that you're mentally engaged. This is how you go from just being quiet to being an active participant in understanding.
It really starts with what's called the architecture of inquiry. Basically, the art of asking good questions. You want to ask open-ended questions that really invite a real conversation, not just a series of rapid-fire shotgun questions that feel more like an interrogation. Use follow-ups to show you're paying attention to the details, and if you probe deeper, make sure your goal is to explore their idea, not to trap them.
Now for what might be the single most powerful tool in your entire kit, the feedback loop. It's a really simple three-step process that proves to the other person, beyond any doubt, that you are right there with them. You just need to remember to restate, paraphrase, and summarize. Let's break this down. You start by just restating the facts. A simple phrase like, okay, let me just make sure I've got this right, shows a ton of respect and gets you both on the same page. Then you can paraphrase to show you understand the meaning behind the facts. Saying something like, it sounds like you're having some second thoughts about, invites them to elaborate. And finally, you summarize to pull it all together, showing you grasp the entire picture.
All right, let's take this to the next level. We've talked about the external stuff, what you do and what you say. But the hardest part of active listening, that's all internal. It's about mastering the discipline of your own mind while someone else is talking.
A truly great listener hears more than just words. They listen for the underlying feelings. You know that quick flash of frustration or excitement or maybe fear in someone's voice? That's often where the real story is. And you can reflect it back by saying something like, you seem a little concerned about that timeline. Suddenly, you've opened the door to the real conversation.
So the key here is managing your own brain. First, and this is crucial, you have to withhold judgment. Just listen with an open mind. You can evaluate everything later. Second, if you disagree, just acknowledge the difference politely. And third, use your brain's natural advantage. Did you know your mind can process thoughts about 4 times faster than someone can speak? Instead of letting that extra bandwidth wander off, use it to deepen your understanding of what they're actually saying.
So, after all this work, the presence, the tools, the mental discipline, what's the bottom line? What's the real, tangible payoff for you as a leader?
Well, the payoff is massive. This is not about just making people feel good. This is a direct driver of the three things that matter most in leadership. Active listening is one of the fastest ways to build genuine influence, establish deep and lasting trust, and create absolute clarity for your entire team.
Ultimately, this is the big transformation we're talking about. You stop being a passive receiver of information, just a hearer. You become an active catalyst for better communication, for deeper insights, and for way more effective collaboration.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Once you start using these tools, with this new discipline, what crucial conversations, what hidden insights, what absolute game-changing opportunities will you finally be able to hear?